All right, wonderful Wednesday morning. I scanned a few places around Accra. I realized last night that there was a complete calm, silence across the city. And I guess the guys were resting after the long Easter period. So I said, okay, that's cool. I did a few places, North Kaneshi, Bubuashi, Matayoko, a whole place. I mean, the pubs and co were all quiet. So welcome. If you have just arrived from Jekiti or Kwawu or wherever you went to for Easter, I'm sure you're waiting for another weekend to get into an exciting mood. Good morning from the center of the world, Accra. This is New Day. The team is ready. Johnny, Amma, and George. Guys and lady, how are you doing this morning?
Great. Yeah. But I'll be charging you for calling me Amma, and then I'll put that money into my salary. It will increase the amount of tax I have to pay in Ghana for benefits.
He's a friend to Mr. George.
He is.
By dropping
I know.
the
doctor? Yes. No, not the doctor. The doctor is a friend. But Nana, my father had a reason for giving me that name. So, I mean, it's just there. It's fine. But you owe me, that's all.
I thought when we get to this level, we can
talk about
No, you can't drop
pet
it.
names.
Yeah. As Johnny said, White and
Abuko
Abuko are witch hunters.
They are. They are friends. So they have a union for this. But yesterday I passed through Legon and I happened to realize it was dark.
Okay.
Totally
as for the
dark.
darkness.
I mean, the lights were out, and then it made me realize that the street lights don't even work.
Yeah.
And so when you pass through, and you know, because they have thick forestry, if I should call it, the trees are, you know, tall and they form canopies, and you can't really see. I was amazed because it was scary, and I was just wondering people who have to walk along those paths because I mean, previously I'd had so many stories of children being abducted during
Around
this
that
Easter period and all that. Not in Legon, but I mean, it drew my mind to the fact that seemingly, if you use the path like this, you could be abducted, you could be hit by a car, and so many other issues.
Look, that enclave, Legon Kwabinya.
Yeah.
Okay, look, apart from Legon compound or the campus, use the stretch from the atomic where we had the explosion through the Kwabinya police station where the man was killed, and you'll be amazed at what you see.
Yeah.
You ask that, is this a place where there's a police station and a couple of schools? The entire vicinity is dark, the trees very, very scary, and yet the street lights are there. They are simply not functioning. That's a problem. They are there. All street lights are there.
You know, and the street light issue brings to fore. I mean, the president said we're going to install CCTV cameras. How do we make the CCTV cameras functional?
Well, there was a point someone was trying to suggest that those cameras can even take images in the dark. That's
but they're taking images in which dark. That's what I'm asking. Because it's a different ball game if it's inside a room and so you're able to. Yeah, exactly. This is outside. I may not be an expert in it, but it doesn't take rocket science for me to. I mean, what kind of illumination does it? Even a professional camera, I'm saying, even a professional cameras here, after 6:30 p.m., it starts giving you attitude. It will give you attitude. So fundamental problem, fix the street lights. It's a basic necessary of life.
And you're wondering if Accra is dark, what happens to the rural areas? You're supposed to brighten the corner.
I live in Accra.
Brighten the corner where you are.
Well, it's quite unfortunate.
But you're just one man,
Charlie,
so it will be difficult
I'm hearing
to do.
the GRA says, well, we all must get
your team numbers. You can't get a bank account if you don't have one.
I'm thinking, I am seeing tin in SNIT.
Yeah.
I think that somebody is not looking. Somebody is not looking. Somebody is doing a lazy job.
Yeah.
Because if we all are registered with SNIT, okay, and we already pay some taxes, it's an easy way of tracking all of us down and assigning things to us, all our SNIT members. It's as easy as that. If somebody is registered to the NHIS, it's as easy. So if we had a national ID system that's all synchronized, because this thing, we'll be done with it, then we will have people tell us we need to go and do the whole thing again.
Exactly.
Well, okay.
That costs a strong money.
Johnny, can we get some understanding? Is it for those who are not in the informal sector?
Well,
I think it's
businesses and
it's supposed to be for everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so all this while, the taxes we've been paying from TV3, what ID do they use to identify us?
Exactly, some ID of a sort.
So that is what I'm saying, that look, we all pay SNIT. Companies pay income tax. If you are, So everybody pays, I pay income tax, I pay SNIT.
How you identify?
Good. The company, this TV3 pays income tax, okay? Withholding tax and all other things come to play. who collects that money? How do they collect? How do they identify us? So there's a system already meant to identify us. Can they just look at it? For example, if they check the database, they know my SNIT number, and then they just assign it in and send me a text.
Exactly.
That's it.
And then there's a particular
because SNIT now is gone biometric. EC is gone biometric.
Everybody is
NHI is gone biometric. So somebody is not looking. Somebody is doing a lazy job. Is not looking. Because if you look at SNIT, if you look at income tax, corporate, or whatever it is, you're able to transpose it in. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but this is what I think.
But let's delve more into the tin issue after the news with George.
Okay. And news is up next here on your favorite morning show, New Day. I'm George Quinn. You can also watch us live on DSTV channel 279. The Adjumaso Kente Weavers and Sellers Association has appealed to government to consider the kente industry when executing the One District, One Factory initiative. The group was at the presidency to present President Akufo-Addo a design woven kente or siadeyo for fulfilling 3 major campaign promises.
The 3 major promises, according to the association, are the free SHS, restoration of nurses' allowance, and the setting up of the office of the special prosecutor. The group encouraged the president to execute the rest of the promises, including the One District, One Factory initiative.
We aimed at honoring Your Excellency Nana Addo to continue working hard to fulfill One District, One Factory and One Village, One Dam political campaign promise made to help create millions of meaningful jobs, especially for the youths in the country. The hand-weaving kente industry is one area hundreds of meaningful jobs can be created for the youths in the country through the One District, One Factory initiative, which your high office can take into consideration. President
Akufo-Addo thanked the members of the association for their gesture and reiterated government resolve to improve the economy.
Papa no war. Na papa no se na mo dia bra mi. Yeah, damase, damase biom. Adwuma na nam husia mo bon abaso no. Adwuma ehia ema o man nkoso.
The work ahead is crucial for the development of the country, and government is poised to do more to improve the living conditions of the Ghanaian.
And now the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, says customers will realize the tariff reductions after subsequent recharge of meters and payment of bills from April 1. The General Manager of Public Relations of the company, William Boateng, who gave the assurance, said there was a need to allow the programming of the billing system to take effect.
The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, rolled out tariff reduction as directed by the Public Relations Regulatory Commission, PURC, last month. There was a 17.5% reduction for residential consumers, 30% for non-residential, 25% for industries and 10% for mines. The reduction was, however, delayed from March 15 to April 1 to coincide with the ECG's monthly billing cycle.
We programmed the system and we implemented it from the 15th of March. But it's a process. It's not a one-day issue or event. So come April, when you go for the first time to purchase or to deposit cash for electricity, purchase the electricity, the system will capture your consumption. It will aggregate all your consumption for the month of March. Then it will start do the proration, start do the calculation for you, the numbers. When you come the second time, it will then give you a refund of the reduction from the 15th of March to 31st of March. That's about 17 days.
William Boateng further explained that the addition of statutory levies and other fixed charges will reduce the percentage relief.
The new tariff regime is running as I speak. The reduction is running. When you go to our offices, we have the record there clearly, and we are still monitoring, but so far so good. On the prepaid, the postpaid will come based on the billing cycle.
ECG has catalogued all unit consumption and expected cost in a reckoner, which clearly explains how the tariff is calculated and billed regardless of the type of metering. This will soon be displayed at all vending offices and revenue collection centres nationwide to guide consumers on their electricity purchase.
You can interact with us on stories aired so far on our social media platforms. On Facebook as News on TV3 and on Twitter as our News TV3. There was no service agreement in 2012 between the government of Ghana and the Canadian firm Nonometric, which supplied Ghana's earthquake transmission equipment. And the breakdown of the equipment prevented the Ghana Geological Survey Authority from making accurate readings for the series of earth tremors which hit part of Weja and Barry last 2 weeks.
A series of tremors on March 24 hit part of Bawe, Anya, McCarthy Hills and Weja, prompting experts to predict an imminent earthquake. According to the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, the magnitude of the tremor could not be ascertained due to a break in transmission lines. A senior seismologist at the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, Nicholas Opoku, said it has taken the authority several days to gather data from remote sites to be able to tell the exact magnitude recorded.
If you have a problem with transmission and something happens, you have to go and retrieve the data. So that is why during the Easter, we did not enjoy the Easter. We have to go round the stations to retrieve the data so that we can give information about this earthquake that occurred to the general public.
Nicholas Opoku revealed there was no service agreement when government procured seismic equipment in 2012.
These equipments are not ordinary equipments you can find in the market, whereby if you have a breakdown, you can easily go and buy. You need to have a good service agreement with the provider so that whenever there is any problem, they can assist you to address it.
Experts have warned Ghana is not ready for an earthquake disaster.
And now 2 suspects, a 65-year-old retired field technician and a 42-year-old physician assistant, are in the police custody following the death of 4 patients who allegedly died through injection. 2 of the deceased are currently at the Volta River Authority Hospital mortuary, whilst 1 is at the Akuse Government Hospital and the 4th at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And we'll bring you more update on this development in our subsequent bulletins. 2 persons suspected to have masterminded last Sunday's attack on the Etunafo South Member of Parliament, Eric Opoku, and 3 others have been arrested by the police. And the suspects, Kwabena Echampon and Yabuache, have since been transferred from the Sankore to Sunyai for further investigations. Eric Opoku, the MP for Etunafo South, was attacked Sunday dawn at his residence at Sankore in the Bono Alpha region. The attackers, believed to be sympathizers of the new Patriotic Party NPP, as alleged by Eric Opoku, also attacked and injured 3 other persons, all members of the National Democratic Congress NDC, that same evening. They also vandalized vehicles in the MP's compound, making it a second time such an incident has happened in the MP's house. Just so you know, we are live on DSTV channel 279. Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Koku Anido, reported to the police CID in Accra yesterday over his alleged treasonable comment. His lawyer, Victor Kojogan Adawudu, later in an interview said his client will cooperate with the police as it continues with its investigations.
The embattled NDC Deputy General Secretary Koku Anyindoho reported to the police CID headquarters in the company of 3 persons at 10:47 Tuesday morning. Later, his lawyer Victor Kojogan Adawudu also reported. The closed meeting with the police ended in about 20 minutes. Counsel for Koku Anyindoho, Victor Kojogan Adawudu, later briefed the media.
As part of the bail conditions that was granted Thursday, we were to report today at 11. We've seen the top echelon of the police CID. The information is still that they are conducting their investigations. Let's allow them. This is a professional institution. We should not stampede them. And they said anytime they are ready, they will call us back. But they are doing further investigation. No, they have our details. They know us. They know the sureties. So anytime they have some difficulty in the investigation, they will call us.
He said his client is still being investigated.
As at now, he's being investigated for treason. He's not been charged.
Okay.
He's not been charged. They are investigating to see that that offense that they have seen, that the investigation will support it. If they investigate and they have compelling evidence, then they will now charge us. That's the procedure. So when you are arrested, statement is taken. That is an investigative statement. Then after the investigation and they've got any evidence, then they will charge you with any offense that it will support. The facts will support that charge.
Victor Adawudu added, Koku can comment on any national issue, but not on the alleged treasonable comments, and promised they will not impede on the process. He further indicated Koku's movement has not been restricted, adding he will avail himself as and when he is invited.
In communicating, we may learn our lessons, the choice of word we will use. But we are very confident that we have not committed anything.
We understand some gadgets of his were seized. Have they been given back to him?
To the best of my knowledge, no gadget of his has been seized. What I can only say is that whilst we were talking, chatting, I think one of our phones is with a police officer. Nobody has seized any gadget or any laptop and others. No, we are yet to have it.
Koku Anyindoho was arrested last Tuesday over an alleged treasonable comments. He was detained for 2 days and granted bail on Thursday.
Away from security, let's delve into health, where the Youth Employment Agency will facilitate the transition of personnel under the health module into health training institutions. The chief executive of the agency, Justin Kondua, made this known at the launch of an exit plan for beneficiaries under the agency. 19,000 personnel under the health module have completed their 2-year program.
The beneficiaries are expected to upgrade themselves to the certificate, diploma or degree levels and be absorbed by the Ghana Health Service. Those who cannot meet the enrollment requirement, according to the YEA, would be assisted to set up businesses. During their working period, welfare and insurance funds were deducted from their allowance to assist them after they have exited. The CEO of YEA, Justin Kondua, said the accrued funds within the 2 years of work would be refunded to them.
Since we started the program, 50 cedis were deducted from your allowance, whereby 5 cedis was for insurance and 45 cedis as welfare fund. All those who will be exiting, that money shall be given to them to assist them in either purchasing funds to their various nursing training colleges and also as a startup capital for those who want to be on their own.
He said the YA had secured an agreement with the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana to recruit beneficiaries. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Nsian Sare, commended the agency.
I think that it's going to even assist us because most of them are from districts. They will be in their own districts. They understand the language, they understand the culture of the people. And when you post them, they will not come and tell you, my mother has a stroke in Kolebu, so I want to stay in Accra.
Deputy Minister of Health, Sina Mensah, who launched the exit plan, renewed government's pledge on job creation.
Although these beneficiaries have had some training and have been made to serve in their designated communities for 2 years, they still require additional skills and expertise.
The community nurses who have been trained in reproductive child health and immunization are expected to assist the Ghana Health Service in the screening of 1.3 million basic and senior high students.
You're still watching news here on New Day. The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development has identified aquaculture as an alternative means to augment fish production and reduce the importation of fish and fish products. It is expected to boost production by 30,000 metric tons by the end of 2018, as well as provide a viable economic hub to attract private sector investment.
Fish is an important source of animal protein in Ghana. However, the fisheries sector has over the past 2 decades registered a slow growth of 3% per annum. Dwindling fish stock is affecting the ability of Ghana to meet growing demand. While demand keeps increasing with increasing population growth, fish stock from traditional sources, however, keeps dwindling. To find a lasting solution to depleting stock, government is prioritizing aquaculture to increase fish production and ensure food security.
We are developing a policy we call Aquaculture for Food and Jobs. Policy intends to encourage a lot of people to take up fish farming as an activity. The key elements there are input subsidy and all that, and also offering free education on technical know-how and many other supports to everyone interested in engaging in this activity.
This government believes will significantly boost domestic production of fish.
We intend to work with institutions like the military, like the Navy, like the police, like the prisons, and even like secondary schools. In between, there's also what we call one house, one tank. We have mobile tanks that you can put in your bedroom or in your hall if you are interested in rearing fish, to be able to do a fish farming. This one should bring in additional 30 to 50,000 tons by the end of the third year to increase fish production for us.
But the fisheries expert, Kofi Agboga, holds a contrary view.
I don't think aquaculture will replace marine fisheries or capture fisheries. It will supplement. Currently, the production from aquaculture is barely 10% of the total fish landings in Ghana. Fish that comes out of aquaculture is not the poor man's fish. You eat tilapia. One tilapia is 30 cedis, 40 cedis. And you can buy fish for 1 cedi, 2 cedis, and eat your kinky. So you see the difference.
He explained efforts should rather be geared towards sustainable marine fisheries.
In the marine environment, large volumes of fish are produced, which will be there for people to go and catch. In aquaculture, you have to produce it yourself. There's so much you can produce per cycle. So it is not a replacement. It is a good idea. People can go into it, but we really need to focus on our capture fisheries, set the system right, and begin to reap the rents that the sea gives us. That is why we are a coastal state.
Strategic interventions as well as an initiative aimed at sustainable fisheries management have become imperative to reducing national fish consumption deficits.
And that's how we end news here on New Day. For more news updates, log on to our website, 3news.com. I'm George Quinnin. New Day continues right after this break. Good morning.
Welcome back. Let's do newspaper headlines. We'll start off with Ghanaian Times. It says, broadening tax net, GRA captures taxpayers. 1,090,338 people have been issued with a tin. Also, 2018 WASI takes off. Then 5 Chinese and 4 Ghanaians have been convicted for polluting the Ankobra. Then Ghana has been urged to position ports for more traffic from Niger. Interesting there. But again, we wish the WASI students all the best. Yeah. Despite the disadvantages you've had to go through, we believe that whatever you have is enough to make you succeed. And so push, and make us proud.
So then you also need to be focused. I mean, at this point, people would want to cram in a lot of things. Yeah. Don't be tempted to cram in things. This is just supposed to be some revision moment where you are, refreshing. If you have not learnt already, hey, sorry about that. But the point is, don't cram everything. If not, you will confuse yourself. You get into the exam hall, you're agitated, you're anxious. You would want to remember everything, and that's where the problem is. If you have not already learnt it, well, I'm sorry for you. But if you have, and you have been diligent, learning every day, revising your notes every day, it will be easier for you. You just need to pick the highlights, and then you'll be fine. You do well. But we wish you all the best.
This is the time when people are trying to, sneak in APO, as it's called.
Foreign material.
I find it, yes, foreign material. But I find it very distractive because you've got so many things already you've learned over the 3 years. Someone is bringing something, whether it's even what is really going to present on that day, you're going to put yourself under pressure to try and cram that piece of information. If you haven't learned it at that point, really your last minute learning doesn't add much. We've all come to understand that because of all the pressure, the agitation, the anxiety. So just relax, take a deep breath. There certainly is something you've learned over the 3 years that you can write on the paper, but don't set your own question. I
have come to realize something that, largely our educational system wants you to do chew, and pour. So if the teacher in the classroom gives you a definition for what motion is or matter is,
if you must a word out,
yes, you're gone. And I think that that's wrong, because if you look at the National Science and Maths quiz, sometimes the students answer a certain question, but then they say, well, it's not entirely what I wanted, but you gave me the keywords, so you get a portion of it. I think that it's time we needed to do a bit of that, where teachers or lecturers must move away from, you know, give me what I gave you in the classroom. They must encourage people to think outside the box. So I get the main principle that you're trying to do. For example, look at all these newspapers. They are all presenting news in tabloids, but their designs are totally different. I mean, they all look different. Some are blue, some are red, some are yellow. The artwork is different. Some place, I mean, look at the Independent, Ghanaian Times, Daily Graphic. They all have the same story about GRA, but they carried it in different ways. I think that teachers and lecturers should give students an opportunity to also express themselves. And that's what the advanced countries do. They won't ask you to define exactly what the lecturer has.
What they have given you.
But then if you're able to explain it, it makes sense.
Okay.
You know,
I
we should allow people to be expressive.
I want to make a detour and take a look at this story about Galamsey on the Ghanaian Times. 4 Chinese and 5 Ghanaians convicted. I think we are in 1 year after this operation Vanguard thing and trying to stop Galamsey. In fact, the news coming in, if it is the exact truth, is not exciting. Yesterday, the Ghana Water Company says that the rivers are turning brown again. Yesterday, I mean, I monitored radio in the evening. Mr. Barnier, who is in charge of the central and western regions of the Ghana Water Company, said that he speaks for those regions. Says that the Pra, the Bonsa, the Ankobra, all of them are becoming brown again after that brief period of recovery. So 1 year on after attempt at stopping Galamsey, it means that what we have done is to jail people, but according to what I heard from him, nothing has changed. People are still digging. They are everywhere. I mean, Operation Vanguard is unable to stop them. And so, really, where do we go? That's a big question to ask.
It's a big question.
Yes.
Senior Bright.
Ghana Water says the situation is
yesterday, I heard the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Akwa, and he says that, well, the people have devised new tactics and strategies, and they are also chasing them, and if they grab you, the law will deal with you. The law will deal with you how? Is it punitive enough? And I'm sure in that same report you heard from Ghana Water Company, we're talking about the cost of treating the
cost is going up again. The water is becoming brown. The raw water is becoming brown again.
Even the silt that comes along with the water spoils the machines that they have. These machines will have to be paid for by us. That when the tariffs rise, because when they run to PURs and tell them, look, clearly we are producing little and we are paying more for it, the public would have to pay for it. So it's gone beyond the talk now. Let's feel Operation Vanguard. In any way, Operation Vanguard is just along the coast in the south.
Yeah, they might not be able to capture all ground.
But then there's illegal mining up north.
Everywhere.
Why have they not been taken? Because water flows upstream and it comes downstream.
I think Mr. Peter Mewu must come again. Has he gone to sleep or what?
He's been quiet.
I haven't heard from him for some time now, because we were told of a well cut out plan to deal with Galamsey. Now, the media advocacy started, and then trying to stop the people on the ground. We saw the soldiers, the police moving, people are arrested, and today's story on the Times is one of the good stories to tell about the fight. But there was another stage where these persons were supposed to be taken through a system to get them off Galamsey into other areas. Or even if they will do it, there's a regulated regime where whatever will be done in a very manageable manner. Now, everything seems to have been missing now. Mr. Mewu is nowhere to be heard of. I haven't seen him on TV, on radio. I think yesterday or so I saw him in one of the newspapers, but he was talking about something totally different. What happened to the program to get these persons who are digging to stop or do it in a more orderly manner. Exactly. You see, and so Ghana Water has started recording the dark days again, and we're again, as a country, the way we do our things, everyone is relaxed. Nobody is talking. Mr. Mewo is quiet. Professor Frimpong is also quiet. We are waiting to get the waters brown again, and then perhaps we might have to call for US to come and bring their soldiers to help us deal with them.
Right.
It's sad. I mean, when we talk about this, the reality, I agree with Bri, because it seems like after the media hype of it and the talks, the initial Vanguard arrest, it seems to have waned. And so my question then is, what is the, plan for everybody? At the end of the day, I as a citizen should understand what is going on. I should be able to know that, okay, in the next year, when they arrest these people, when they, make them pay the fine for whatever they're doing, it's going to be sustainable. But right now, it seems like just a reactionary thing. I don't see this being sustainable beyond a year anymore, because you do this for Ancobra, it gets clean in a few months. Within a few months, it's back to brown. And then, like you said, the ripple effect of Ghana Water Company, ECG, everybody will pay for it. And so it's not, holistic. It seems like we're just doing something to please us, because the people are back. When they don't have alternative source of income, they will certainly go back.
I remember that this whole talk about one district, one factory was the big ish at the time when Operation VAD, the first 400 people were sent out. That was what we're told, that look, one district, one factory was going to, because questions were raised about having an alternative employment for them. And we also have been told how they've been told there's a link between those who do galamsey, and when it's off-season, they get into logging of the trees. So we already know what the problems are. How to solve is the big problem. But when the State of the Nation address was read earlier this year, I had an opportunity to engage the Minister for Health directly. I asked him 3 questions. 1, why is he not part of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on fighting galamsey? Because there's mercury, there's all manner of chemicals, plus the sun and everything in the soil. It comes to his doorstep as Minister for Health. Because when people get ill, they will go to the hospital. Why is he not part of it? Number 2, science and health are intertwined. So why is Professor Frimpong watching there and Mr. Kwekwaji Mamedu not there? I asked him those questions, and he said, well, that's a solid point. It's been 4 months or maybe more. I still haven't heard anything. And it looks as if
the two who are on the ground, we hear anything to
there's
even
supposed
add
to be 3.
More.
Interior Minister, Defense Minister, and Minister for, no, actually 4. Science, and then the Lands and Natural Resource Minister. So 4. Now, you want to ask, and this is a question I've been asking as well. Mr. Peter Mewo seems to be the one in front, leading the charge. What are the other 2 or 3 doing? What is their input, apart from saying, we give you 20 soldiers to go and fight? What else is there? Because this is a national security concern. We can't be buying water at a much more expensive rate than we buy fuel.
Let's pray.
It won't make sense.
Let's pray that we see a full haul of that program, Mr. Mewo's program on mining, that was expected to review the whole mining system.
But is the program in force?
That's what I'm asking, because Ghana Water says that the rivers are turning brown again.
Right.
The
program that was brought, the first one was to ban the thing.
Yes, which was done.
The table.
The advocacy was done. The media took part.
Then the ultimatum expired. Then they renewed. So this is about the 4th time the ultimatum will be renewed. Within that time, the small-scale miners have been calling that, look, lift the ban, because you don't seem to have a grasp on the issue. If not, we are going to form our own political party. What has happened to that conversation? Then, at the beginning stages, we were told that the factories will be ready at least by the beginning of 2018.
To take care of those who will stop.
Where are the factories?
Who stop the calamity?
So we put the plan up on paper and we do nothing about it. Nothing. And look, again, I'm saying, if you're a big man in this country, never be deceived that because you're in Accra and you're buying pure water in bottles to drink, you are free from galamsey.
Oh, but don't grandmothers and fathers are in the village.
Yes, but I'm saying that oftentimes those who live in the cities who have cars and everything, they can afford it. The treatment plants, the pump, they think that everything is okay. But don't be deceived.
When granny is sick, they will call you.
They will call you. They will call you. You will go and pay.
Anyway, guys, but it's time for us to
There are some things Odido doesn't solve
at all. many things. But we're talking about traditionalists, and they're calling for a national holiday in view of the fact that other religious bodies also celebrate national holidays. What do you think about this as we step on the streets of Accra?
So the folks at Nogopo or Antwa who are calling?
We have to ask.
No, traditionalists. I mean, those who are
so we have a national traditional holiday.
Yes.
Oh. So that they can also pour their libation and talk to their ancestors.
But given that we have more than 46 tribes, who will be the headquarters? Where would the
So we'll bring all of them together. Either Konfanochi's birthday or
Kinagokoli's birthday or Okankwe's birthday.
The founders have one particular person they adore so much. I think Ejaho or something.
Maybe we can do Etui.
So you can imagine that alone starts with the confusion. But let's see what you have to say as we hit the streets of Accra.
This is what it feels like. We are back to work from the long holidays, and talking about holidays, traditionalists in the country are making a case. What is it? They want government to set aside a day in the national calendar as a holiday to commemorate important rights. Mind you, Christians and Muslims have their days, and this is a time where we are even complaining that Ghana has too many holidays, which is impacting negatively on productivity. Do these traditionalists have a case? Is there a rant? Let's keep talking.
According to me, I don't think they have a case. Why do they need a holiday? They always observe their...
But you're a Christian, you have your holidays.
I'm a Christian, I have my holiday. Don't do it to have their normal days. There's less when they are celebrating their homo, their boatre, and the rest.
They need a national holiday.
They need a national holiday. Your own. So have they, all of them, have they agreed that this day, we need this day as a national holiday? They are not united.
How do you
are you with them? I'm not with them. I'm not with them, but they do have Christians.
Are you with them? Are you with them?
The unity I'm talking about. This
what unity? What unity? What unity are you talking about, my brother? What unity are you talking about? Are you with them?
If you are celebrating Christmas, it's all Christians. If you are celebrating Eid al-Fitr, it's all Muslims. If we are celebrating it's people.
They deserve it. They deserve it.
You know what? If they are able to get to 1/3 or 2/3 of the Ghana population,
what Ghana population? Most of the holidays are.
They should start evangelism. They should start evangelism.
Don't tell what
they should start evangelism.
Don't tell what they're telling me.
They should start evangelism.
We are all Christians.
They should start evangelism.
We are all
it doesn't need any evangelism. Okay, they might have a legitimate cause by asking for a national holiday. But the only issue will be the fact that when are we going to give them the holiday? Because we have different festivals. The Homoa is there, Uhum is there, Abuachere is there, the Yam Festival is there. So when exactly do they need the national holiday? Do they need just any day? But which month will it be in? Because if it's in, let's say, if for instance, I'm not too sure about this, if Homoa is celebrated in August and the national holiday is put in August, the Ashantis will come. We are the Ogboros. So let us
give it to them.
Let it be
let's give it to them, and then let's see how it goes. That's more like it.
It might bring up conflict.
Even if you want to go further to what she said, look at it this way. Even if you go to the coastal areas, we have days that they don't go for fishing. Would they avoid that and take one day specific for those deities?
See,
I don't get it.
I don't think
there are a lot of traditional
settings
in Ghana here.
Don't you think we are sidelining them? Because you know Muslims have their temple.
Exactly.
And Christians have their temple.
Listen, when you go to the Muslims, there is a calendar which all of them follow. Are you getting me? When it comes to Ramadan, Eid al-Adha, all has calendars that they go by. But the traditional, do they have one calendar? That
they don't have a calendar. They don't have a calendar. But let's bear in mind that these people were there before other religions were introduced into our country. They're not being sacked. But they have a cause to say that give us a national holiday. But the only issue might be, when do you need it?
You see, with the Christian and Muslim, we don't have a bat. We don't have a bat. But these people, we have a bat. What do you have a bat? The bat is, they don't know the specific day. I disagree with him. We don't know the specific day.
I disagree with him.
So give it to them and let's
I disagree with him. I disagree with him because, one, it's as if we are all being biased.
We are not being biased.
Listen to me, listen to my brother.
Yeah.
Christians have their own. Yeah. Muslims have their own. Why don't you give them their fair share? But secondly, my only problem is, fine, we are we the Christians or whatever, the Muslims, whatever it may be,
Why don't we give them their fair share? How they handle it is none of
We should give them their fair share. Are we the people
my problem Echo.
No, are we the people decide?
Listen to me.
The Christians, the Muslims, we should give them their share.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying that you have been giving yours. They have been giving theirs.
Father, if it goes this way,
exactly.
You've given Muslims, you've given Christians.
Give them their fair share.
How they'll do it is their business.
But for now, if you are saying we should give them what? Because they don't even have a consensus that this is the day we set aside. But when you go to Islam, there's a day they set aside. If they want us to listen to them, they should come around.
Let's take it this. If the government is ready to listen to us, we can give government a day.
Fair enough. If they will come and have
this is a form of proposal. This is a form of proposal. It's a proposal, so they should, let's say, write their proposal. Well, they should give the. If they send this proposal,
that's what I'm saying. We have thinkers in Ghana.
But
we have thinkers. That is why we are. No.
Asking for more of something. So at a speech, okay, they decided. I mean, at a deba, they decided to give a speech, and in the speech they were saying, okay, we need a day set aside. So it looks as if they are now bringing up these issues. So it should get to government. They don't get
petition. Maybe a commission could be set for them. They will look into it.
Everything simple and clear. We are thinkers. As students, as we are thinkers. Why can't we come up with something that will bring peace? Fine.
We are not
they are saying, listen to me, brother. They are saying they want recognition. Fine. This is the best we can do for you as a nation. On the day of the Homo festival itself, we will declare it as a national holiday.
What about the Abachi people? What about the Abachi people?
In that case, you have given them a condition.
What condition? This kind of condition will never work.
You've done something about
this kind of condition will never work. This kind of condition will never work.
I was thinking you guys, so it's a Christian country, so this is a no. But according to Archbishop,
it can't be that.
According to Archbishop Duncan Williams, Ghana is not a Christian country. It's a secular country because we are not in the era where prophets, choose presidents or choose kings.
No, exactly.
It's not a secular country.
And besides, just recently in our PR class, we're told that if as a PR practitioner you go to a community, you have to go and see the overlord of that country, of that community, because you can't do anything without them. So we can't rule this out. So if they need a holiday, let's give it to them. But they should all come to a consensus and decide that, okay, this is the day we want. And irrespective of the kind of festival we celebrate, this is the day that will be declared as a national holiday for all traditional.
Let me ask you something. Maybe if they are not really important, like we won't even come up with the National House of Chiefs. Secondly, if they're not important, like we won't even.
That's sorry, they are still in the system. Chiefs, they are still in the system. They are
there because they are important. They are there because they belong here. They are there because we don't criticize them. We should just give them the listen.
Look at this. This is a time where we are already complaining that Ghana has too many holidays, and so productivity in the country is negatively, affected. And so, people might also have
we have Easter for Christians. We have Christmas for Christians as well. We have even New Year. But let's look at this. If we are saying we have too many holidays, the traditionalists have no hand in this. They have no hand in this. If we want to give them one day, let's give them the one day. Christians have Easter. We have Christmas. And yes, we are complaining that there is no productivity.
It's only two.
It's true, but the days are not
Have you considered how our traditional authorities or rulers think of sovereignty? Each of them see themselves as a state.
That's why we have National House of Chiefs.
You have National House of Chiefs.
Before the recording,
in our place to even determine for them.
Yeah.
The only thing we need to do is just give them a chance and see how they handle it. If you don't translate, we can take it from them.
Before this recording, use us like this issue is too delicate. Traditionally, they can even WhatsApp your case to you.
No, we are not afraid of any WhatsApp.
So you see, we shouldn't overlook the fact that they have. We are Christians, but we shouldn't overlook the fact that this land belongs to our forefathers. They can do anything they
Nigerian can take that.
Don't take their lands and then let you guys go.
You don't get what I'm saying. I'm not saying this land down belongs to them.
No, and they tell us what to do for the nation. And it's even worse. Then why are we now changing things?
Okay, so it's a mixed reaction on the part of some students of the Ghana Institute.
If they
log on to our social media platforms on Facebook, it's News on TV3, and on Twitter, it's a News TV3. Our WhatsApp line 050-823-5228. Engage us with your comments, and you're always ready to read them and share them with the rest. Thank you for watching, and have a good morning.
All right. Now, the finder this morning says Ghana-US trade hits $1.7 billion as Ghana increased exports by 133.50% in 2017. One big story here: you can't do business without government without the tax identification number. That's the warning from the Ghana Revenue Authority. That story has space in almost every newspaper this morning. We'll take a look at that. BNFT says overvalued city puts one district, one factory at risk. Ken Thompson talking there. And then the Today newspaper talks about tramadol, a silent killer, as FDA partners Pharmacy Council to fight the menace. Those are some of the stories I have with me on the newspapers here. My guest this morning, the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the NDC, Nia De Koka, is here. Good morning once again. Hope you're doing great after Easter.
It's great.
Thanks so much for joining us. And also member of Parliament for the Secondary constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Andreje Pamesa, is also here. Good morning too.
Good morning.
I'm sure Easter was great for you too.
Well, it was. You know, Secondary has a big Easter event, so I was there throughout the weekend.
Oh, okay.
I came in last night.
Okay, we'll join next year.
Very well.
All right. Let's start this morning with the Independent newspaper. There's a story here that's making a lot of waves. Bost uncovers black marketers in the petroleum sector. The story says that Bost has revealed it has uncovered some Ghanaians and foreigners who have entered the petroleum sector. That's the black market dealers whose operations are inimical to the economy. It says that it is pitching operations to topple the activities of the unscrupulous and irresponsible black market dealers who, over the years, had manipulated the downstream sector, which accounted for the high fuel prices. Boss is not too happy, according to the story, at fuel prices at the pump. It says it's about 4.51 cedi per litre on the average, which was about 20.30 pesos per gallon. Now, according to Boss, they have the capacity with appropriate government support to bring the price down and maintain it at a lower price level for long period through the trading arrangement. Boss is, however, worried that this effort is being curtailed by this cartel. According to Boss, the prices on the market are as a result of what these black marketers are doing. For instance, the senior staff officer revealed, Mr. C revealed that they are asking government to support Boss to stabilize prices in the country and get the prices down. Again, it appealed to the Minister of Finance and the Bank of Ghana to waive the single obligor limit on the line of credit to Bost for the petroleum products market. It is simply saying that once Bost is able to clear these black marketers, the prices will go down. According to Bost, it has the infrastructure and the human resource capacity to bring the prices down, so government should pay attention to them and ignore the selfish and greedy people who have formed a cartel that had dominated the industry to the detriment of the economy. That's the story. Simply Boss suggesting that the prices on the pump are as a result of black marketers. Honorable Japa, let me start the conversation with you. Boss says it has the capacity to work and bring prices down, but the problem is from black marketers. And Boss is suggesting that government will need to come in strongly to to stop these persons. Now, fuel prices are a big deal. Government's interest or disinterest in getting the prices down, boss says government will need to work more. Is government listening?
Well, good morning to my senior colleague here, Senior Santa Clausian.
Oh, okay.
And of course, our cherished viewers this morning. I guess that BOST operates within the scope of the Ministry of Energy's ambit. And so if there is any challenge that necessarily impacts their operations, they know the appropriate agency to channel those concerns to. I without knowing the details of the story, because yesterday on my way back, I had some back and forth exchanges between Duncan Amwa and one other official, I believe, from SNIT on the Asempa FM. I only tuned into the middle of the conversation, so I never seem to have gotten the gist in its entirety. But you know, if the suggestion is that some black marketers operate within the space, and so that is the reason why prices of petroleum is high. I know that people smuggle some of the petroleum products. Indeed, I accompanied the Vice President and the Minister of Defense to Secondly Naval Base in my constituency, where some vessels had been impounded because they were engaged in smuggling and illegal trade in petroleum. I'm not so sure whether those activities necessarily will have an impact on the pricing, because I was of the view that it was because those people do not pay taxes on those products, they tend to sell their products rather cheaper on the market, and that impacts on government revenue. Because we know that the composition of the pricing of petroleum products is made up of the price for the commodity and some taxes. And so I don't know to what extent that BOST can influence that by bringing it down. I know that their mandate really is to hold some strategic stocks for Ghana, and of course, over the years they've dabbled in trading. I don't know whether they are suggesting that if they are allowed to do more trading, then their operations would necessarily lead into a reduction in the prices. I think that the appropriate agency to be speaking to would be the Ministry of Energy, possibly the NPA, and they are all thankfully within the same energy subsector. And so it will be easy for those issues, if indeed they can lead to a reduction in the prices, to be explored. You know that government is a listening government. We promised on the back of people's cry, have responded positively by reducing electricity prices. And so I think that if this cry is directed properly, the appropriate officials of state would react and bring some relief to consumers of petroleum products.
Right. Let me come to you. Fuel prices is such a big deal because it's always one thing that you politicians would use when campaigning. Now, if BOST says that it should be supported by government to keep prices down, perhaps government should quickly move in.
Right. Good morning to yourself and to my brother and to your esteemed viewers. During the war, there was a collaboration between BOST and what do you call the station? GOIL, right?
And it's still there.
It's still there. That enabled prices to be maintained at a certain level. The big players, Total, Shell, I always find their prices so high, and I keep asking myself, them being such big players, I thought rather their prices will be able to come down. You go to other small stations, Galaxy and all those kind of stations, and you realize that their prices are low. So I keep asking, by what formula are they able to maintain these low prices compared to the big players, right? So if BOST is asking for, even though there's deregulation, right, if BOST is asking for government to help them try as much as possible to maintain petrol price at a very low, it's a call in the right direction, because the fuel is everything. There's a multiplier effect when fuel prices go up, and also it endures for a benefit. When prices come. For instance, I try as much as possible to look for the lowest fuel price to buy. So it's about, you see, in this industry, all over the world, there's always been a cartel. You look at the Middle East, those days when they were controlling the price of. This day, because of most countries having huge storage facilities and are able to store lots of petroleum products, that is why the prices are not able to jump to very high levels. So, if BOS has got the capacity to ensure that we are able to enjoy low prices, I think the call is not right. But there's a tough war between COPEC and BOS. This has been running since the beginning of this year, and I think that is what these are the kind of things that inform this discourse between the two of them, because one will want to paint the other as black as possible, and that is causing it. So there should be finality to this back and forth argument between COPEC and, because I'm sure this is being directed at COPEC as being the people who are doing this black market. If you read in between the lines, that is what you anticipate, right? So there's a need for the impasse.
Or rather, I think it's the bulk distribution companies. I think,
but I mean, they all fall under
the sector,
under
the petroleum sector, right?
So there's a need for some understanding to be brokered between these groups. But as for the cartel, as for the oil industry, it's a
cartel will be there.
They will be there. You cannot get rid of them. Look, all of a sudden they can decide not to bring in fuel products. Right. And you know what it took? I mean, you remember a few years ago, they were owed some amount of money.
And decided not
to. And you saw what happened. Because it's a cartel, because only few people can enter into that industry. The overheads are huge. It's capital intensive, and if you don't have that capacity, and you don't have creditors who are willing to give you 90 days or 180 days credit for you to be able to bring your products, definitely only a few people will be in that. And it's in our own interest to manage this in such a way that they will always be making profit. So there should be an understanding. Unless we are able to ensure that BOS has got that huge facility, and whether
according to BOS, they have the
if they have, then the funds they must have the funds to be able to purchase in large quantities at discounted price or whatever, to be able to. So it's a huge tax that they have to go through. So there must be some understanding between the fight that is going on between the various industry players, which I don't know whether they naturally will affect the market.
Right, I'm grateful. Let's also touch on this one from the Statesman this morning. Ghana's economy getting better. That's from Mustafa Hamid. The Minister of Information is optimistic of a brighter future as the economy reacts positively to government policies and initiatives. Now, according to him, the records clearly show that the economy is getting stronger despite government inheriting a wobbling situation from the previous Mahama administration. In the post, he points out some 30 achievements, which includes increased economic growth, fiscal discipline, introduction of free senior high school, setting up of special prosecutor, the right to information bill placed in Parliament, Auditor General having saved Ghana 5 billion cedis, the Zongo Development and Inner City Ministry, functional digital property addressing system, the establishment of the Northern, Middle and Coastal Development Belts. He says these are all achievements pointing to the fact that Ghana's economy is indeed stronger today. Honorable Mesa, you live in a stronger economy today?
Better than we had in 2017 January. Clearly, all the economic indicators that we've seen points to an economy that is improving, that is getting stronger. And I don't think that what the Honorable Information Minister said, and I've read his post, was that we have gotten there. No. But we made significant progress over the past year. that we've celebrated a full budget cycle of the Akufo-Addo government, and of course, interest rates are beginning to see a downward trend. All the economic indicators we saw from the budget that was read in 2017 November by the Honorable Finance Minister, and so, and went ahead to list some achievements that the government had chalked over the period, and clearly demonstrated beyond shred of doubt that this government is a better manager of our economy than our brothers, the NDC. Ghana last year was rated one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and that doesn't come easy. We know that prior to us coming into power, industry was experiencing negative growth. Within a year cycle, we did some 17%. Clearly, our debt to GDP ratio has declined from 73 to about 69.8%. All the indicators, I mean, there's not one that you can point at.
But is it reflecting in daily lives?
You see,
because that's a concern of many.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you, and it takes time for some of these things to reflect in our pockets. But of course, if you go to the bank today and you can borrow at a lesser cost than last year, that essentially will reflect in your daily life. And look, I will not sit here and pretend as if Ghana has almost been transformed into some utopia. No. It's a process. We're building a nation. We're building an economy that was taken from a certain point, and it takes time. It takes concerted effort to get us there. And when the signs are clear that we are moving towards that direction, I guess it's worth celebrating. But to also say that we should all, put our shoulder to the wheel and work hard to ensure that we arrive at that destination. Because we haven't gotten there yet. But I can see clear signs.
Your opponents have said that even some of the achievements Dr. Mustafa is trumpeting are just slogans. They talk about one district, one factory, one village. It's not the government is just shouting and nothing is happening.
Oh, right. I mean, what else do you expect them to say? I will concede that some of the timelines that we give for the commencement of the one district, one factory has not been achieved. And it is not unusual for targets to be missed. Be that as it may, I mean, the government has a 4-year tenure. I expect that possibly many of the districts will be done, if not all, will be done before the 4-year cycle of this government ends. We all are hopeful that it would happen as soon as possible. And I have heard the coordinator in charge of the one district, one factory when she visited the Ekunfi site, where my brother Chief Baini, is reported to have acquired a piece of land in the area to start cultivation of pineapples. You recall the time that he came all over to say that the place has been dominated by grass cutters and all that. Apparently,
I saw a few of them last week.
Oh, please. When was the last time that we went on that route?
What's happening there?
Yes, I know that the equipments have been imported, the financing has been put in place, and before sometime mid-year, they should start construction of the factory. And several others have been identified. The ministers of trade have stated variously. I understand that there's been some challenge with the financing that government expected to, as it were, use to support industry to do this. You recall that when the vice president visited China, we were informed that some arrangements have been entered into with the Chinese Exim to provide some support to Ghana, Association of Ghana Industries, and some collaborating banks to support the rollout of the one district, one factory, and also China National Building Materials Manufacturing Company. I understand there's been some challenge with that arrangement, and that has necessitated the need to source for alternative funding. But some Ghanaian banks have demonstrated clearly their ability to, as it were, support the financial, the private sector people whose projects have been evaluated and approved by the One District, One Factory Secretariat. And the banks are doing their internal credit evaluations and approval processes to enable the program rollout. Okay. I mean, look,
so it is
politics, politics aside, we all agree, and I know my senior Santa Clausian here would agree that it's a laudable initiative. And I always call on my friends on the other side that, look, yes, when it comes to the politicking, by all means, and nobody is saying don't critique the policy. Yes, of course, it only helps the policymakers to sharpen their, the rough edges and make it better. But the over-politicization, condemnation of the thing, oh, it's a failure, it's done this, it's done this. You made promises to the people of Ghana. You make promises too. Everybody does.
But if you make promises and you fail, shouldn't people talk about it?
But of course, we haven't ended our term, have we?
But when you make definite promises,
I've indicated to you what commence. I indicated right here.
But when 2018, not one has commenced.
I have indicated to you quite clearly that, and I have admitted that there's been challenges with the timelines that have been set.
The president
because
didn't know the
projections are made,
he didn't know that those
arrangements are made. Of course, nobody anticipated that the Chinese arrangement was going to face challenges. It wasn't anticipated, okay? Because all the MOUs were signed, and the expectation was that it was going to be rolled out as expeditiously as possible to enable us achieve the commencement of the project by the timeline that His Excellency the President gave. And nobody's running away from the fact, because of course the people of Ghana can see that the project hasn't started, and we admit it hasn't. But I'm saying that some of these things would happen. By all means, let's critique it, but to poo-poo it, as if to say it is not something that is worthy of doing as a nation, is why I have a difficulty.
Will anybody, I'm coming to you, but Honorable Minister, would anybody be critiquing the way you want it if they put it to government that why have you abandoned the Commander Sugar Factory and you're running around putting up new ones? would that be a critique? You would think it's
but you've heard all the experts speak about the Commander Sugar Factory.
Yes, and they said that it is government's failure to go and fix it. That's all they said.
You heard Imani speak the other day.
Yes, I have it too.
And what did they say?
Well,
that project itself was dead on arrival. No, you didn't hear Kofi Bentil make that statement.
The researchers went there and said that they are even ready to partner government to have another type of sugarcane that wouldn't need all these resources that we are struggling to get to put the factory.
Well, I haven't heard the researchers speak, but I don't doubt. No, that's fine. No, of course, I can't hear everything that people say in this country. And no, I'm not doubting.
Central Regional Minister was
respectfully. I'm not doubting the statement that you're making. But of course, you can't speak to these matters on radio, on TV, or during interviews. You submit proposals to government, written,
according to them,
to say that, well, if they need to do the appropriate follow-ups. I have all the
government is interested in going to
why? It's state funds that were used to do it. But I heard other experts to say that this thing ought to be put to some different use. And that is as recent as last month.
The factory.
Absolutely. Because, you see, I hear them say that they did something that is called reverse integration. Is that what you guys call it? Which is to say, build a factory and then you do the sugarcane to feed the factory. Who does that? Where? Basic economics. Location of industry. You ought to have the raw material there.
Yes, but
I think basic economics.
Honorable Mesa,
I'm not an economist.
I doubt if we are not expert, but I think sugarcane takes about 6 months to build. A factory of that nature would take 2 years. How do you plant the sugarcane before building that factory? And when the sugarcane is
of course, it's timing. If you know the factory is no, Bright, please, let's not. Are
you suggesting that you have planted pineapple at Ekunfi before the factory? That is also wrong.
Go and look.
The pineapple you planted before the factory?
No, did they plant any sugarcane?
No, I'm saying that you are suggesting.
But the statement that you are making, okay, is to say that pineapples have been planted at Ekunfi, but there's no factory. Yeah. Of course, there are other uses for pineapple until the factory is done. Not a problem. I'm asking you, did they plant sugarcane 6 months before the factory got completed?
No.
So what are you talking about?
The idea from then the authorities was that, okay, since the factory takes 2 years, let us put the factory, sugarcane takes 6 months, and then we can feed.
So 18 months after the commencement of the factory, they couldn't have started planting sugarcane.
Is it wrong for this government to go and plant sugarcane?
I don't have a, but of course it requires funding. It requires several other factors. The technical people have said that the factory itself, okay, you may possibly have to, because all the lands in the commander area that can be used have been, used for something else. People have built on them. All sorts of things have occurred there. Okay, and that you may even have to import or bring in sugarcane from other regions and even outside Ghana to feed the factory. And that doesn't make an economic sense.
Let me ask you this.
We've had experts speak to this matter.
Is government worried about touching something left by the previous government?
Several other things that were done by the previous government has been touched.
Is government worried about touching them?
Why would government be worried about touching something that was started by the previous government? ECG, compact private concession agreement, is it not being followed?
Okay.
They started car power. Government has renegotiated and brought the price down and has, arising out of the negotiation, extended
to 20 years.
The contract period. Send power and all the things that they claim. When you see, they say, oh, JM legacy, you haven't heard them say it.
What is wrong with
No, I don't have a problem, but you are alleging that government is afraid of touching something that the previous government.
I'm not alleging, I'm only
asking. And I've demonstrated clearly to you that that is not the case.
I'm only asking, I'm not alleging. If then government now in a position said that car power and emergency power for 10 years was too long, and government has extended it to 20 years. Can government fix Commander? Is it beyond government capacity?
Well, I do not have information to respond to that question.
All right. I'm grateful. Ni, yes, do you live in an economy that is getting stronger according to the information minister?
Before I respond to that, I hope that one district, is one factory, one district. I hope that the raw materials gets there before they build the factories.
Well, there's one from Techima North is getting a pepper processing.
Oh, so factory. The pepper has already been put in place.
It's only the land that is ready.
Oh, I see. So in future, I think that my brother has just said, before you put up the factories, make sure that the raw materials are in place so that.
I didn't do a course.
I did a course very well.
And I know
that. You see,
I'm sure your Santa Claus teachers will be listening and watching.
What he was, I kept quiet to Brian.
Okay,
I just threw a jab.
This is friendly fire.
I just threw a jab, and the man is already one. I just threw a jab. I'm just reminded when we had independence. And we started putting up factories in Ghana. We had no raw materials, but Kwame Nkrumah said we need to have import substitution. So we started putting up the factories, and at the same time made sure that the sugar factory was put in place, and arrangements were made for us to source other funds to make sure that the raw materials are put in place. All that you need to do is go to the Indian facility that we have put in place. Just go and take that facility and make sure that outgrowers and all that are put in place, and the factory will work. Simpliciter, he's a lawyer, so he knows what I'm talking about. Look, I thought the minister for information will come and tell us that in the past 16 months of the administration, X amount of people have been employed. You can list all these things. All they needed to say was that, because the last time the president had an encounter, he said he didn't know the number of people that has been employed and that he made the figures available. As we sit here now, We are still waiting for the figures. So I thought instead of the Minister for Information or Disinformation coming to tell us that in the past 16 months, we have been able to create with the special prosecutor, we have employed X amount of people. With the SHS, we have employed this and that. I mean, all the things that he listed. He should have put a human face on it to say that X amount of people have been employed as well. You understand, right? Look, it's very funny. When you sit here, every day, the Minister of Information will have something to come and tell. I mean, that is his passion. Every week, he must have a press conference to say something. When you go into it, you see the hollowness of the whole thing. We are sitting here. Look at the youth crying for jobs. And that's the point. And that is a situation which all of us must be worried about. Instead of us making this listing things that are, like you said, slogan. I mean, just mention this every day. We hear this one district, one factory. My brother says plants are and Kumfi, the sword was cut, and all those fanfare. I was watching the minister for coordinator for on that pen was saying that too, the Chinese disappointed them because they said they give them some 2 billion, and then the terms and conditions, I was laughing. And so this time, should you make any promises? I said, my friend, don't you know the Chinese? They'll give you, they want your oil. It happened to Professor Mills. We went there, they promised 3 billion. When we came, they said we should give them a certain amount of oil before they will release the funds. So if you don't know, and they will come and stand, and that's their passion. I mean, they make the promises, and then they will come and start. So you ask whether are we living in an economy which is growing or better, right? I think you've got some.
He says it was better than some
Vox Populi.
2 years
ago. You know, when we were saying that the economy was better, and the people were saying, was it reflecting their pocket? You ask the same question. So if the economy is better, I'm sure by now it will be reflecting people's pocket. But here we are, people are still just go on the street. From after this program, I wish all the two of us will follow you with you. We will go and then you go and ask the people who are going to work today. I ask them, they are in a better position to tell us whether their pocket is full of CDs or not. No, we are in hard times. On Sunday when I was going to church, in the radio, in my car, on the radio, the gospel song that I was listening was talking about the hardship. And I'm asking Jesus Christ that now that he's coming back to earth, right, to make sure that the hardship that we are going through is minimized. That's the point of call. So, we can talk about all the economic indicators, physical this, whatever it is. In the last 16 months, you borrowed so much. There's not a single project. You see, if you are not doing infrastructure development, if you are not doing the roads, you are not creating jobs. In every economy, it is infrastructure that makes sure that the economy is buoyant, because there's a multiplier effect. You see, when you are doing this infrastructure development, you go to a site, a construction site, look at the number of, apart from the workers, you see the water seller, you see the kenke seller, you see the ice water, you see the guy who is selling chips, you see the guy who is selling boni wewu. You know, those small things fuels the economy. But if for 16 months you've done nothing, and you are talking about indicators, and now you are still borrowing, and you say nothing, then where are we?
Is government not creating that platform? So, for instance, it talks about the National ID project that has been put in place. It talks about other development authorities, the northern, the middle, and the coastal belt. These are expected to create that platform for what you're talking about, to start springing. Is that not how to
You don't reinvent the wheel. This economy has been running since when? Time immemorial, our economy. Right? You don't reinvent the wheel. We have heard of Noridip, we have heard of Voda, all those things. Voradep, Central Region, they had the Sedicom. We've heard all these things before. All these things are not new. You understand? Right. So you don't reinvent the wheel. What we say, look, when you go to a Central Region, you know that belt is full of pineapples and oranges and bananas and those kind of things. All of us know that a processing plant must be put there. You don't need one district, one factory to do that. So you know that you identify the opportunity cost of that particular area. And then if it's viable, you make sure that. But over the years, we are now having competition from China and all. So you have to take all those variables into consideration before you make up your mind. But setting up this thing, it's there already. It's been happening over the years, right? So
is it too early yet to start perhaps asking government all these questions?
They bring the questions. They said the questions.
One budget year cycle.
Yeah, they said the questions and they said the answers. Me and you came here this morning, and you are telling me about the Minister of Information listing a lot of things, and I'm interrogating it. I didn't start. If it comes to tell me that, oh, government is trying, like my brother is saying now, oh, we don't give us time. Oh, fine, then all of us. But if you come and sit there, and I ask you, how many jobs have you created with all these things that you are, and you are not able to tell me, because that is what is important. And then you are not able to tell me by that the salary there's been salary increase in this country so that the people are now having more money in their pockets. By that, our students who are coming from SHS, who might not go to university, might not have the opportunity, once they come out, there's job opportunity for them to go to. Then I'm fine. But you come and make this, you didn't tell me that you've created one job. The president himself at the forum said he doesn't know. He's waiting for the Minister of Employment. And as we sit here today, we don't know. Unless my brother here will tell me that they've created X amount of jobs. And then I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy about that. So please, let us be truthful to Ghanaians. Right? Don't let's do these things to ourselves. It is not the best. The government is there for 4 years. Okay. Like he said, I agree with him. I think there should be less propaganda, right? And let things take it. Let the system flow. Let's see you start building roads, building hospitals, building schools. I mean, and then let's see the cranes all over Accra or Cape Coast, Second D. Let's see. Then I can tell that the economy is moving.
You see, Honorable Mesa, I'm grateful. Is the job issue a big one for government?
Yes, I think so. And clearly, I mean, government has admitted, severally that unemployment seems to be one of our biggest challenges as a country. But I hate to do this, but sometimes it's important, You sitting here, you can't tell the people of Ghana straight in their face how many jobs you created between 2009 and 2016. 8 years.
Is that why we voted them out?
I agree. I agree. Yeah. You can't. Because you know that we as a nation haven't done so well with data collection. President Kufuor, in his wisdom, felt that, look, let us start by implementing some national ID system that enables us gather data of the entire population of this country, the various categorizations of all the people, what they do and all that, so that we can put some accurate numbers to some of these things. For 8 years, you abandoned the project completely. Yet you sit here and expect a government that has come 13 months.
Is that what is costing unemployment?
No, I'm coming. No, it's the data that he is asking for. That is what I'm responding to. The information cannot accurately be provided. We know. You know. And I know. And you sitting here know.
Is information there or it cannot be accurately provided?
Where's the information? How do we even gather it?
We know at least
so
the
government
has control over the public service. If in 2017 this number of people were employed in the public service, can government say that this number?
With all due respect, you are very knowledgeable in these matters, and you know that private sector, public sector jobs are not as much. It is only in the private sector where many more people can be recruited. That is where the attention should be focused. You understand? But you've not done so well with the data collection. Yet you're asking a government that has started working, implementing the processes that would enable us gather the data, that because you say that the economy is growing stronger, give me figures of people that you've employed. Please.
So the employment has been created. The problem now is that there's no data to capture them.
I haven't said that employment, of course, the employments are created every day.
Okay,
people get jobs every day. Them. But these are private sector jobs that are being created on a daily basis that it is virtually impossible as we speak
to capture
to
them.
Provide that data for us to do any meaningful thing with it.
So
that's why it's important that the national ID system is put in place. Now GRA is implementing the tax identification number. And what's exciting is that they're not even waiting for you to start economic activity right after SHS. Then they roll you onto the national tax identification platform. And this is data that we need for our planning to enable us project properly, get accurate information with respect to our job numbers and all that, so that we can move forward as a nation.
Let me quickly go to Mr. Adekuko, but before that, you see, we're just about hitting, the government is just about some 13 months. In a very few years, government will be called to render account. Is this the suggestion that before 2020, let's say 2019, we'll be able to have a data system that is capable of capturing people who are employed so that government can have figures? Is it possible before 2020 elections? Because government will be called upon to render. 2020 will be able to get that information.
Of course. I mean, the national ID system is going to be rolled out fully this year.
Okay.
All the legislation has been passed, the appropriations have been made.
So it is possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Right. So the argument is that the jobs might have been coming in every day, but the problem is capturing the data to say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 persons have been employed.
Right. I mean, the question you're asking me, as if, once you put that in place and you capture data, and then it gives you the number of people who have been employed.
Yes.
Have you created, the question is, have you created the jobs? Give me a job that you have created. And we can go there. You can go there and count the people who have been employed.
Okay, so tariffs for industry electricity is gone down, so it will give them room to be able to expand and employ people. That's workable.
But you see, these are kind of, so you mean the hairdresser is now going to employ an extra worker? Is that what you are telling me? But let's talk about serious work.
But that's also
let's talk about serious jobs. You see, when we were doing infrastructure and those kind of things, they told us that they were temporary jobs. So I thought beyond that, they will have come and tell us now that, look, in the past 13 months, government has been able to create this kind of work that is giving the youth employment. Don't tell me that you have put legislation in place. I'm coming, please.
Okay, go.
You put legislation in place that is going to capture data, and by that data will tell the number. Those things, those national ID enable us to identify who we are. Because over the years, every country from childbirth, the moment you are born, you are given a number, a social security number that runs through your life. That doesn't mean you'll be given employment. No. That doesn't mean you've been given employment. Let's be serious about this.
No, I think we're only linking that to the figures you were asking for. That if you ask for job figures, how many people have been employed? Government can't get it because it doesn't have the capacity to capture the people.
You must have the absolute job. The first instance. Like here, TV3. It's an edifice that has employed people. I want him to tell me the last 30 months. What have they created that is giving jobs? This national identification I'm talking about. People are already there working. That system is already there. All that you are now going to produce the cards for them to enter in the data and collect it. It's there already. It's there already. So has it created a job?
I see. But Mesa, why is government unable to, for instance, talk about this, the National Builders Corps? At least we've been told that 100,000 people are there. So why can't government say that, okay, now, yes, even in that sector alone, 100,000 people are getting new jobs?
But, Bright, you see, either we fail to listen to what government is saying or deliberately try to
don't listen well,
play politics with it. Because, and you see, particularly because he served in government before, he knows that it is the private sector that can generate the kinds of employment that would reduce significantly. Because look, we sit here, wages and salaries, interest payments, statutory funds, all our total revenue is gone.
Did you know that? And you promised that the money is here. You said the money is here, you don't need to go and borrow. The money is I've worked in Bank of Ghana before, and I know where the money is. You know. So what are you talking about now, my brother?
You see, at least there's been some creative ways of managing that. And all this reprofiling that is being done, the capping and realignment and all that, is intended to create space. Of course, when all these things were, of course, major government promises are being rolled out. The nurses' allowances, the teachers' allowances, the free SHS, they've all been restored. Okay? And so if we say that the money is here, yes. If you don't borrow beyond a certain limit, okay, of course, your interest will not exceed a certain limit as well. But the mess that my brothers on the other side created will take time to fix.
Okay.
Okay? This tin number that is being rolled out, that law was passed in 2016 or so. But we've sat on it for 2 years, okay, without doing anything about it. And we know that there's the need for us to broaden the tax net. So now, people can access public services only when you have the tax identification number. And we know what it is that it can do. The national ID that I'm talking about, it's not the number of people who are going to be employed at the national ID secretariat that I'm talking about. I'm saying that when we have that information, we can know the demographics of this country and plan properly to enable us meet the challenges of each demographic. Okay, we don't have it.
As you see, we don't know the demographics of this country.
All right.
We know that
they are all estimates.
Let me go to Johnny once again. Let's take some comments and then we'll come back to the conversation.
The gentleman from the hill.
Yes.
From atop the hill.
The Santa
Claus. Good morning,
Clausians.
Senior Bright. Ghana health system is getting rotten. I just had psychological bleeding this morning when I hear the community health workers were giving 2 years training in reproduction and child health, vaccination, health promotion, etc. and will be transferred to the Ministry of Health come August. Oh, Youth Employment Agency has now turned to nursing training colleges. Fantastic. Unemployment nurses and technical officers. Ghana is really working again. You're 3 years in school plus 1 year in internship for diploma and 2 years in school for NAP and NAC. You enjoy better year government directive. Clearly, Avo Intamale is bemoaned. TV3 New Day, good morning. The MP people are only trying to give excuses at every given time for their woeful incompetence management of the economy, which is taking a heavy toll on the ordinary Ghanaian. But inshallah, come 2020, the very people who put them there have seen their incapability and will in same manner kick them out. Hashtag disappointed government forever. Osman Burkisan in Tamale. Isn't the party we voted for, MPP, is dying slowly? We have been disappointed on the job. Muftao from Bolga Zongo says President Mahama is not helping matters on the U.S.-Ghana military agreement. If he had advised the minority to the fact that he indeed signed that agreement in 2015, all these attitudes the minority is showing wouldn't have happened. I therefore call on former President Mahama to, as a matter of urgency, ask the minority to stop what they're doing because he indeed signed that agreement. We pray to God to deal with any MP who chose and paid huge sums of money to delegates to vote for his choice of aspirants. Those MPs should know that the evil that men do will surely come after them. Otto in second D. Good morning, TV3 and your able panelists. Please tell the MPP man that Ghanaians are tired of hearing one district, one factory, one village, one dam policy. They should bear in mind that 1 year is ahead of them. I can't think far. Idrisu Abdullahi in the northern region, Savalugu constituency. Good morning. All mischievous submissions indeed from Honorable Mesa. I don't think he is interested in what engineers and researchers have said about the sugar factory. Car power deal for 10 years extended to 20 years and is a good deal. Intelligence and competence indeed. IB. Emmanuel from Commander says MPP is not interested in getting the sugar factory going. It's not true that the land for sugar cane cultivation has been used for other purposes. From credible source, they rather want to build a landing beach here instead. Honorable Mesa, good morning. Is MPP government aware that jobs that we do and make 10 Ghana cedis a day in 2015, 2016, now you do the same job and get 2 Ghana cedis, yet they claim the economy is getting better. We don't blame them. Stephen in Adenta. Stephen, what kind of job are you talking about? Let's know. We voted for MPP to come solve problems, not to come speak big English. Sometimes they don't even understand it. Please, MPP man in the studio, give us a break. Good morning, TV3. I read and heard the president will speak on the Ghana-US military agreement. As usual, he is just going to confirm what MPP parliamentarians, ministers, and communicators are already saying. Nothing different. I heard and read others say his pronouncement on it will put matters to rest. Fallacy. He will rather stoke more controversy. Ghanaians should not waste their time listening to such confirmation of such bad agreements. In fact, just like the case for Seed Saga, the president is just going to echo and recycle what has already been churned out by the MPP. Aziz and Kumbugu is doubtful. Good morning, Bright. The information ministers claim that the economy is improving cannot be seen to be true. The CEO of Dialex Finance, who is not a politician, said the economy is a flat broke. Please ask the MPP man whether a reduction in interest rate puts money in our pockets. Dr. Baumia should have learned from Professor Mills' example from these Chinese people. President Akufo-Addo must fix the economy. Farrakhan in Tamale. AU Farouk in Tamale comes back, says, good morning. Why is the current boss management making the petroleum sector ungovernable? The incompetency of the boss is becoming worrisome and devastating. Strong economy is not only measured by employment levels, but many indicators. For example, tell me, please, remind the government we are still in the house. 2016 NAC and NAP batch. They gave us up to March ending, and we're in April now. Dr. Abedi Nkwada, so Big Shoes, says, good morning, champion. Thanks to President Akufo-Addo's government for the reduction of electricity tariffs. But I can't think far. So former President Mahama begged the U.S. for the military base, and now he and his government gurus are demonstrating against noble President Akufo-Addo's government. Oyibo Boating Nere Behi. Julius Agahoa in Tahiru Asawasi says the current situation at Sankore is a clear indication that this current government has lost it when it comes to security matters in this country. This was not the same Ghana John Dramani Mahama handed over to him. So I am appealing to our president to do something about it because the country is gradually slipping into the hands of terrorists. You say JB Nsawam finally says, Eric Opoku's shadows are haunting him. He is reaping what he sowed as minister for and MP for Asunafo South. So he should spare us our ears. The people of Sankore should know that when brothers fight to death, it's a stranger who inherits their father's property. I rest my case. Okay, and finally, late Professor Mills was only 6 months in office, and candidate Almighty Akufo-Addo and Dr. Know All Baumia called him Professor Doolittle. If you have been in office for 30 months, then Ghanaians are too patient with this administration. John in Kumasi, he didn't call the president names anyway. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, Johnny, we're grateful. Keep sending them. We'll read them in the course of the show. Let's wrap up with this one. Get a tin or be out of business. That's a story in almost every newspaper this morning. A Revenue Authority is asking every Ghanaian to pick the tax ID number because without it, you can't open a bank account, you can't transact business with government, passport, several other documents that you need to do, land registration and all that. Honorable Mesa, this is good news for the economy, particularly when we're struggling to deal with issues of revenue mobilization.
Absolutely. I mean, I would not necessarily say we're struggling to deal with revenue mobilization. But, of course, our tax net is small. There's only people in the formal sector, particularly with respect to PAYE and import duties, VAT, that are caught in the net. But of course, we all use public goods and services. Many of the people in the informal sector do not pay taxes at all. And so with the introduction of the tin regime, I think it's going to go a long way to bring many more people into the tax net. Of course, the effect would be possibly an increase in the
more revenue for us.
Revenue for the nation. I think it's a good thing to roll out. I mean, it's been rolled out for a while, save that I think it was limited to only incorporation of companies at the company's registry.
That's what you were asked to.
You needed a thing to be able to be either a director or a shareholder. Now it's being extended in scope. Driver's licenses, passports, and all that are also being brought in. Opening of bank accounts are all being brought in. And it doesn't take too long to obtain a thing anyway. So I don't think it's going to necessarily disrupt the running of people's business activities. All you have to do is to go to the GRA offices. I believe that some of the forms are even available online. Download it, print it, submit it, and then your number will be generated and issued to you immediately. And you can go about doing your business.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that necessarily lead people out of business. I was rather going to facilitate
what they do.
Absolutely. And so I will encourage those who do not already have TIN numbers to quickly procure one, so that we can all, contribute a little bit towards the national kitty and be able to demand public goods and services from government. Of course, it can only be for our own benefit.
Okay. Me? Yeah. The tax ID card, good news for us, I guess.
It's in the right direction. I mean, every jurisdiction that you go, you have people are identified while it's working to be able to pay their dues to the country, because we all need to develop this country. There's no other place that we can say we can call our country apart from here. So anything that will know the benefit of this country, we must all encourage it. So there's nothing wrong about it. That this system it's already been there. Before you go to do certain things, you must have a TIN number. So those who have not been on the TIN must be encouraged to do that. And going forward, we know that the benefits that will come from TIN will be that our roads will be asphalted. Our 1D, 1F, as people are saying, do have enough money to go and make sure that those factories are put in place. I mean, if the government is doing something well, we will encourage them, but we wouldn't just take what they tell us when it's not true. That one we would definitely critique. My brother should be rest assured, because they did that. This super incompetence that they are displaying. I mean, they called us incompetence, but theirs is now super.
So all right, gentlemen. All right. Okay. I hosted the two Santa Clausians. One is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the NDC, Joseph Niade Kuka. The other is a member of Parliament for the Secondary constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Andre Ejapa Mesa. Grateful for your time with us this morning.
A pleasure.
And of course, I'm sure Santa Clausians are watching. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, then he has to go and pay. Stay with us.
And so let's imagine you see a person out there shaking vigorously and you don't know what to do about it. Or you see the person convulsing and you're wondering what exactly is going on and how can I be of help? We're going to be talking about a very important health topic, epilepsy. And I'll be discussing this with DSP Dr. Ayambila. He's the Senior Medical Officer at Police Hospital. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks again for joining us.
Delighted to be here.
So let's start off with a definition. What is epilepsy that everyone seems to be talking about?
Okay. So epilepsy is a chronic neurological disorder characterized by recurrent, unpredictable seizures in an individual. So an epileptic person is a person who has a tendency to have seizures all the time.
Right. And so it's not just one episode of a seizure that will be termed epilepsy.
Exactly. That's basically one of the myths we'll have to address. The fact that someone has had a seizure does not mean the person is epileptic, because seizures could have a lot of other causes.
Right.
Even severe temperature rises in children, and you can have metabolic derailment. If your sugar level is too low, you could have a seizure.
Okay.
So you are looking at 2 or 3 unprovoked seizures.
Right.
to describe someone as being epileptic.
Just let's break the English down. When you say unprovoked, what does it mean? And then when you say seizure, what does it even mean?
So a seizure basically is an electrical imbalance in the brain, in the functioning of the brain, that leads to uncontrolled movements in the body, behavioral changes, and it could also lead to changes in perception of sound, smell. So what happens with a seizure is there is this transient phenomenon where you have this increased currents or increased electrical activity in the brain. So then seizures typically would occur as a result, as a standalone condition or as a result of a secondary condition. And if it's unprovoked, it means that it's not because of a medical condition. It just happened on its own.
Right.
Because most of the seizures don't have a specific cause.
And so do all seizures look so vigorous? There's always a shaking to be able to say someone is having a seizure?
No, not at all. The symptoms with seizures have to do with the part of the brain involved. If you have the part of the brain involved will tell you what type of seizure you'd have and therefore what symptoms you would experience. If it's a generalized seizure, then it involves the whole brain. That's where you have the classical look of the person falling on the ground, shivering, having foam in the mouth, and tongue biting, and so many other things we do see. But in other forms of seizures, let's say if it affects a specific part of the brain that has to do with your perception of smell, for example, you begin to have a sensation of funny smells. And in that case, you wouldn't even have any convulsions at all. So it's not all epileptic forms that have to do with convulsions.
So if I have somebody and they come to you, how would you be able to identify what the cause of the seizure is? Is there any lab you do or any specific thing?
So when a person has a seizure episode, I imagine that the person has had a seizure outside and was rushed in by bypassers. We would want to know from the person when he's awake, we'd want to know what may have been the cause of the seizure. You want to establish the baseline. Because in asking the person the history, you would want to know if this is the first episode or if there are any other medical conditions that could be attributed to the seizure. You'd also do some lab examinations, as you mentioned, some blood tests, and the most important would always be imaging. You'd like to do a CT scan to see if there's a brain tumor, there's some sort of disease in the brain that could have caused the seizure. And you'd also do what we call the EEG. The EEG typically looks at the brain activity in a resting state to make sure that the brain works in a normal state all the time with no electrical overdoses.
And so what are some of the causes, underlying causes for a seizure?
So the underlying causes are far and wide. There are a lot of causes, reasons why someone would have seizure or someone may be epileptic. The biggest one is vascular disorders in the brain. If someone has had a stroke,
vascular means the blood vessels.
Vessels in the brain, exactly. Let's say someone has had a stroke. Another important cause is infections. Infections in the brain, HIV/AIDS, meningitis. You could also look at trauma. After a road traffic accident or after penetrating injury, and even in boxers as well. I mean, they box throughout their career. By the time they are retired, they may have some incidents of epilepsy. And apart from trauma, you can look at autoimmune diseases, diseases where the body literally attacks itself. You look at metabolic disorders. Even if you're hungry, the blood sugar drops to a very low level, you may have a seizure. Aside that, you could look at injuries, newborn babies, and I mean in the labor ward, when there's protracted delivery and the baby is deprived of oxygen, that could lead to him or her having seizures in the future. You also look at the idiopathic aspect. Idiopathic in the sense that in 60% of seizures or epileptic episodes, we are not even too sure what the cause is. And you can look at brain tumors, drugs, alcohol. Chronic alcoholism is also a cause, cocaine abuse. And we also look at the psychiatric disorders as possible causes of seizures as well.
Well, the causes seem to be far and wide, and so mothers who have been knocking their children have to be very careful just in case they don't cause any trouble there. But I'm sure people are wondering, can you have, if you have a parent who has seizures, doesn't mean you also will get seizures eventually?
What people tend to inherit is a genetic predisposition. It's not a particular disease, but a likelihood to develop a particular disease that may cause you to have seizures. And then there are many of those conditions.
So it may be hereditary, but not always?
Not always. Not in the true sense of the word, but it may be hereditary.
So supposing I see someone having a seizure, as a first aid responder, what can I do to help the person?
This is a very important aspect because we've been conditioned from our childhood days to believe that seizures are as a result of demonic possession or maybe as a result of some I mean, aspects related to those spiritual causes. Right. But essentially, when someone is having a seizure, at that point, you do not have to restrain the person. Okay. You would clear the environment. Restraining the person will not necessarily stop the seizure. So you clear the environment. Okay. Do not put any object in the person's mouth. Okay. The myth is that if you allow the person to have the seizure without putting an object, then he would swallow his tongue and choke to death. That is not the case. Right. And what you would also want to do, apart from ensuring the safe environment, is to make sure you can call for help. Okay. And then as soon as possible, the patient may be sent to the nearest health facility. Okay.
Is there any special position you're supposed to try and put the person into health? Yes,
you place the person towards the left side in a recovery position so that if there is anything in the mouth, the patient would not aspirate, swallow it or get it into the airways. Okay. And I also must emphasize the fact that seizures are not contagious. Right. I remember back when we were kids, we all learned that if you got close to someone with a seizure and the saliva touched your skin, it means you would also become epileptic. That is not the case. So you should go close and help as much as possible.
Does pouring water on the patient help in any way?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, especially in the sense of epileptic episodes. Maybe if it's as a result of some, many things look like seizures, acute emotional states, maybe some fainting spell. Then the water would work. Maybe the person has had some bad news and has collapsed as a result of that. But typical epileptic seizures may not respond to the cold water application.
Okay, so now after we've identified someone with a seizure, how do we manage the person? And if I'm a family relative, how do I cope with a person?
Yes, I'm happy you mentioned the family because now we are looking at epilepsy as a problem to the individual and to the community as large. I mean, a biopsychosocial approach to managing someone with seizures. The first thing is for the person to be able to accept the diagnosis and then know that it's a common phenomenon and that there is help out there. Based on the symptoms the person would give you, we would like to know whether it's a seizure that involves a part of the brain or the whole brain, and then we want to know how severe it is. And then when we proceed to our CT scan, our EEGs, we'll be able to map out the locations in the brain where the problems are that give rise to the seizures. Then we put you on medication. This medication, the aim of the medication is to make you seizure-free. We don't typically have a cure for seizures. Epilepsy. We would want to make sure that we suppress these epileptic attacks to a point where you could be seizure-free for about 1 year or 2 years. And then in that state, you could live a normal life, operate machinery, and probably drive a car as well.
And so the family, moving forward, so now he's on medication. Is there anything we should do to help? Is there anything we shouldn't do? Or it's, the person, so far as the person is seizure-free, it's fine. He can live a normal life.
Well, the role of the family is to be supportive to the individual and to take out the aspects of stigmatization. You know how sometimes in the family everybody says, oh, this person is like this, and so let's not go too close to him. This is a person who is emotionally stressed and is at a point where he needs all the support he could get. So that's where the family comes in, to encourage him to take his medications. And then if there are any aspects that he may not know with regards to his own management, the family could pick that out and let the doctors know.
Okay, so there's a myth out there that for someone who has a seizure or who has had it before, they could become mad. Is that really true?
Not entirely true. I would say not entirely true because, as I mentioned earlier, epilepsy as a standalone disease, 60% of the time, we do not even know the cause. But if it's as a result of, let's say, it ties in with a psychiatric disorder, for example, then it's the psychiatric disorder that would cause the diminished intelligence or the mental derailment, and not the seizures or the epilepsy as a standalone illness. So that's why at this point, epilepsy is not even classified as a disability.
So in the management of seizures, apart from drugs or medication, is there any other thing? Is there any other form?
There are some forms of behavioral therapy. That has to do, it's within the realm of psychiatry. And aside that, if the the imaging examinations point out to a specific point in the brain as being the cause of the seizures, then the person may benefit from surgery. And then the medications, as you mentioned before. So it depends on the causative factor of the epilepsy that the person has and then the symptoms that it presents with.
So typically, around what age is someone allowed, if there's a word like that, allowed to start having seizures? Is there an age, let's say, if I see it before 1 or 2 years, should I be more worried as against when I see it in adult life?
Yes, I'm very happy you brought up these questions because there's a particular group of seizures we refer to as the febrile convulsions, and these happen in children between the age of 6 months and 6 years. We would say they are allowed to convulse, allowed in inverted commas, in the sense that whenever there's a temperature rise as a result of fever, these patients, these children may have some seizure episodes. But the good thing is they usually outgrow these seizure episodes. And if you were to do lab examinations, imaging studies of the brain, you realize that everything is normal. And so they do not fall within the category of being epileptic. Yes, that's the significance of the 6 months to 6 years age range.
Okay, so is there also a role in terms of the age at which you actually start getting seizures? In that, like you said, apart from the febrile seizures, let's say if a child was to start having seizures, does it impact any way in the severity of the seizures as they grow, as against if an elderly person also gets
absolutely. Because the tendency is that the earlier you have the seizure disorder, I mean, you have the episodes of seizure, the more likely you are to develop full-blown epilepsy later in life. One typical example is the absence seizures, where we have children in class, you know, at a point in time, they would lose consciousness. You have this blank look on their face without any motor activity. So it's just like they are daydreaming. This even impacts in their schoolwork and then other aspects of their development. But then if you allow these small episodes of absence seizures to persist, they realize that by the time he's about 15 years, he has full-blown epilepsy. And so some of these seizures, you must attach the utmost importance to it so that you can manage and prevent a progression into more severe forms of epilepsy.
Right. So on that note, it sounds like parents would have to be very cautious, because not every seizure will be so obvious. Some may be as subtle as just blinking of the eye. Some may even come in forms of laughter. And so
some even in the forms of clapping. And even in some children, you would have just aggressive behavior. And so we had a child in the hospital the other day. All he did was whenever he had a seizure, he would run amok, go spoil the TV, drop items, and everybody thought he was just being naughty. But that wasn't the case. He was actually having a seizure. So the seizure is not always your typical movement of the body, but any sorts of behavioral abnormalities could also be considered as seizure forms.
Right, and on that note, guys, you have DSP Dr. Faisal Ayambila to help you on that. If you notice anyone who has a seizure, just walk into a hospital, make a complaint, and you will have treatment for that. I have been speaking to DSP Dr. Faisal Ayambila. He's a senior medical officer at Police Hospital. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break at this point. We'll be back with more here on New Day. Stay with us.
Oh yeah, Kwame Eugene there causing confusion. But who's causing confusion 10 years after the Nima Alhamdu Gata project was initiated by President Mills, bless his soul, to improve sanitation around Nima and Mamobi? The story has not changed 10 years on, and the project is yet to see finality. Take a look at slums in the city.
Filth, despair, neglect, deterioration, ticking time bomb. These words perfectly describes the current situation of the twin slums of Nima and Mamobi, arguably two of the most famous Zango communities in Ghana. Their story is not a pleasant one, even in the 21st century. Nima presents a jaw-dropping view of a packed, decrepit, haphazard and unplanned housing units inhabited by impoverished people. Their needs are enormous, but the insufficient supply of shelter, water, electricity, employment, security, and good drainage system tops the wish list. These conditions have persisted since the early days, but haven't impeded her daily expansion. So, she continues to play host to a large number of rural urban migrants from Ghana and parts of West Africa in an overwhelming fashion. Culture, religion, and tribal unity in diversity presents a delightful example of peaceful coexistence in the midst of all the squalor. Nima and Mamobi are strategically placed in close proximity to the Flagstaff House, the seat of government. In fact, Ghana's president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has repeatedly mentioned how he was raised in this vicinity and how he still keeps his Nima residence. But right in the center of these two communities lies the infamous Nima Gata project that serves as a boundary for the Ayawaso East and North constituencies. It travels about 1.2 kilometers from the Kaukudi Junction near the Kanda Highway all the way down into the Mamobi 441 township. The Alhamdu Gata, as it's also called, was initiated at the advent of the Atta Mills government to ensure the smooth flow of wastewater and improve sanitation. Unfortunately, it now poses a threat to the lives of those that live near it. The project was earlier handled by Caspian Energy Ghana Limited, but it stalled twice between 2013 and 2015 after missing an initial 2012 completion deadline due to financial constraints, lack of resources, and the political will to see it through. It was later re-awarded to Queiroz Calvaro, the Brazilian construction company that put together the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange. Their deadline was set for a period of 2 years between 2015 and 2017. Yet, in 2018, there has been next to no improvement and the story remains the same. Here is Kosami, a local government activist.
What is happening there is lack of commitment in dealing with the issue confronting the community. It seems the gutter was constructed some years back, in the 90s. So why can't we find a way of completing it so that water can flow properly into the main drain?
Presently, the sides of the drain are heavily choked with a carpet of waste, from human excreta and polythene bags to bottles and organic waste. The list is endless. In addition to wastewater from the households that meander through the alleyways to the end of the abandoned project, growing from stagnant to gaping stench and serving as a fertile breeding ground for mosquitoes, rodents, and cockroaches, the health implications need no explanation. There are also reported cases of homes being ruined by the floods. Structures built along the now uncompleted drain are suffering from cracks and are on the verge of collapse as erosion is gradually eating away the foundation of their shelter. Some residents have abandoned their homes for their own safety, but others remain adamant, determined to stay on. They toss in refuse behind their homes to fight erosion, which seems to be winning against their homes hanging on the balance. Children and adults use this abandoned project as a walkway to and from work and school. Particularly, the children find pleasure in watching cattle, sheep and goats reared on the sides in makeshift pens and ranches. With the livestock having a field day and feeding on just anything, the children run their own commentary over the Food and Drug Authority's silence to make the pastime worth the while. The Community Connect team was told how children have often fallen into the drain and gotten badly injured. Mazu is brother to Sunday, who lost his life after falling into the Alhamdu Gata. He explains.
He died in the gutter. He was walking on the gutter when he suddenly fell inside and he broke the leg. Before we got him, we took him to the hospital and we lost him.
Business is booming on the Nima Gata. Brisk business obtains despite the gaping stench. The plot thickens as food and other commodities are served on the platform of filth with careless abandon. Rakia sells a popular delicacy, cocoa and kose. She shares the rationale behind this idea.
Previously, this place did not look presentable to me for a food joint, but the boys that hang out around here mounted pressure on me to start this business so they can buy some. Initially, I did not feel comfortable selling food here, but now I have gotten used to the smell and danger. They buy from me, and some residents also patronize my eatery. I use mosquito coil to ward off flies and other insects.
With the predictions of heavy rains by the Ghana Meteorological Agency, residents now fear for their lives and property due to the fact that even well-thought-out communities are not spared the wrath of the rains. Maestro claims the first phase of the Mamobi drain was completed by the State Construction Company in 1999. However, the second phase, which traveled from Kaukudi Junction to Mamobi Bridge, seems to be going nowhere. It appears that Mamobi and Nima are sitting on a ticking time bomb. This is so because After many years of sadness and doubt, the promises from officialdom to complete the project has just been nothing but words, making the lines of hope badly blurred.
He is believing. Today, the media general is here, the community connect is here. Johnny, I salute you. The whole world have to see this thing so that we are saying that the life of people of Mamobi Nima is very important. If they don't do this thing, and if it rains in the midnight, what will happen? People will not like it.
In 2013, some angry youth of the area issued an ultimatum to the government of the day to either complete the project and wipe away their symbol of disgrace or face multiple demonstrations. That, indeed, yielded close to nothing. It is true that water is a prized commodity, but must it be fetched from any source despite the consequences? But when a burst pipe profusely wastes clean, potable water, it becomes very worrying and the questions start popping up in your mind. And if indeed cleanliness is really next to godliness, as they say, will God like to dwell in this mess at Nima and Mamobi?
This is the lowest point of a project that raised the hopes of the people of Mamobi and Nima so high. And with the rains fast approaching, their physical and medical threats heighten. Who do they look up to? What could they possibly hope for? And who do they turn to for help? Who will fix this mess here at Nima and Mamobi? For Community Connect, this is Johnny Hughes reporting from Nima and Mamobi. That's a mouthful. And,
in Adisawe.
In Adisawe, yeah, the cozy studio. But by the way, the coming of the rains, I mean, I don't know, right?
Johnny, a couple of people saw this piece and asked me, what is it that prevents people from doing what they have to do? And the young man asked me, so this gutter that has been left unattended to, what does it take to get it fixed?
Right.
I tried some explanation.
I
realized I was talking a lot of nonsense. Because the young man said, but the gutter is there. It is exposed. He said, I saw people living close to the gutter. All we need to do is to go and buy cement and fix it. Right. I said, yes, it's true. I mean, your thinking is right. But who has to do it? And why is it not being done?
That's the big question.
I tried to explain, but I realized I was not making sense or stuff.
Well,
because he didn't understand why it can't be done.
Exactly. And to think that it's just about some 6 or 7% of the work that's left to be done, you're thinking, okay, so why has it been left?
Exactly, because individuals build their homes and they make their own gutters and it's possible. So why would you be giving a contract to do a specific job and you can't deliver on your mandate?
These are about four contractors so far that have worked on this.
Exactly.
Plus, the rains are coming. When it rains, the sides of the drain actually get so full, you may think it is solid land, solid ground.
And that's when you find people drowning.
Drowning. Because they can't find where to walk. You know,
Sunday died from it. Sunday is an elderly person. He died. He just fell into it. It was rushed to 37. That was it. So imagine the number of children who may stand a risk. And everybody is watching. The AMA, under whose purview this is watching. The folks at Hydro, they are watching. The Minister for Sanitation Water, they are watching. The Minister for Zongo Development and Inner City is watching. Everybody is watching.
They will, go to the family and give them some money to help. But that doesn't solve the issue.
Mr. President, good morning to you. The people of Nima say you are one of them. They know that your house is close by a place. Do something, Mr. President. Please. Good morning.
Anyway, guys, it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, it's
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's midweek.
It's watch it day.
It is.
Yes, watch it day.
Wednesdays are watch it day.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
For you, it's witch hunting. That's why you don't know what Wednesday is.
But watch it starts with W.
Tuesday is Thursday. Tuesday is pizza day for him. But Wednesday is witch hunting day for him. But it's midweek for us. It's watching day for us. Yeah. Then Thursday is his weekend. Yeah. But that's how witch hunters work.
Watch it and witch is all W. It's okay.
Yeah.
We couldn't.
So he's a senior man. How do you take it away from him? Anyway,
guys, be good. Have a great day. Top of the day to you, and make sure you're winning. Whichever way, win. Be on the side of the law.
Ghana a better country because that's all we have.
Yeah.